Leroy slammed his fist on the dashboard, muttering a curse under his breath. Tom raked his fingers through his hair. Now what? Exit 47, their last opportunity to refuel, was closed. Concrete barriers surrounded by orange cones made an impenetrable barrier. The orange warning light in Leroy's Tacoma mocked them. 23 miles left until they ran out of gas. There were no other gas stations within 50 miles. It had been so freeing to be on the open road, highway extending forever into the horizon. A spontaneous trip. They had been seeking adventure, rock climbing, surfing, hiking, anything they wanted to do. But now they were stuck in a remote area without cell phone service. They hadn't even seen another car in hours. Leroy pulled over to the side of the road. The exit looks fine. I don't understand why it's even blocked, he said finally. He glanced over at Tom, who was staring out the window at the gas station. Look at that. The gas station is still open. How about I walk to it and see if I can buy a gas container and some gas? It's only half a mile or so. You can watch the car. Seems like our only option, exclaimed Leroy. Tom got out of the truck and made the half-mile hike. The air was sweltering, and he was relieved it wasn't any longer. Sure enough, the gas station was open, but surrounding it was an odd purple sludge. Had it been an accident? A lot of gas must have spilled, but what made it purple? He had no choice but to walk through the mud. It wasn't very deep, and he walked carefully, but there must have been a pothole because he suddenly sank into the mud, halfway up his calf. He yelled in disgust and tried to shake as much of it off as possible before entering the gas station. He bought a 5-gallon jug, a roll of paper towels, and paid the attendant enough to fill the jug with gas. "What happened here?" he asked. "Why is the mud like that, all slimy and purple? It got all over my leg. Was there a gas leak?" The odd-looking attendant just grunted and turned away. Tom filled the jug with gas, heaving and taking rests when needed. It took him much longer to get back to the truck. He emptied the jug into the Tacoma and was relieved to see the screen light up and tell them it was enough. Tom sat back in the passenger seat. "Give me a minute to rest. I'm not feeling so well." "Sure. Want some water?" Tom drank some water and sat with his eyes closed. 10 minutes later, he wasn't feeling any better. "Should I start driving?" asked Leroy. "No, I think it would make it worse." "How about I run to the gas station and get some medicine?" "Yeah, I would appreciate that." Leroy turned the truck off and jogged to the gas station and picked up a couple different types of cold medicine and brought them to the counter. "Not going to work," the attendant said in a gruff voice. "What do you mean? My friend is sick." "The purple mud, not going to work." The mud made him sick. "Not sick. Come back at 5 o'clock when we close. I can help. It happened to me." "What happened?" "See you at 5 o'clock. Leroy insisted on buying the cold medicine anyway and jogged back to the truck. He gave some to Tom. "Let me know when you're feeling better enough for me to start driving." Tom swallowed it and then rolled over on his chair, trying to get some rest. Leroy kept his eye on the clock, hoping Tom would get better, but he didn't. At 4:55, he turned the truck on. "Hey, Tom, the guy at the gas station was a bit suspicious, but he might be able to help. We're going back." Tom didn't say anything. Leroy switched the Tacoma into 4-wheel drive and drove off-road to get around the closed exit. It wasn't easy, and he almost got stuck, but he made it. He pulled up close to the gas station. At a couple minutes past 5, the strange man exited the front door and walked up to the truck. Leroy noticed that his skin had an odd pallor. "Follow me. He's just hungry." "Hungry? No, he is sick." "Follow me. He got it on his skin." He waited patiently as the man walked to an old, rusted-out car. Leroy was surprised the car even started, then followed him along the road to a dilapidated modular home nested between pine trees. "Don't mind the house. Just go straight to the yard." Tom was still unresponsive, but was able to walk upright when guided. They slowly walked up to the man's property and to the yard. There was a large, muddy hole in the ground. A dozen people sat inside of it. As Leroy looked closer, there was a shade of purple in all of their skin and in the mud. "Just hungry," the man said again. "He'll feel better if he gets in." They all did. Leroy wasn't sure about this. He looked at Tom, then at the people in the mud. One of the women, covered up to her neck in mud, called out to Leroy and Tom, "Take a dip. It will do you good. It's bizarre at first, but you get used to it." Tom suddenly pushed away from Leroy, took staggering steps toward the hole, and fell headfirst into the mud. "Tom!" Leroy yelled, rushing over. Tom slowly sat up, and although his eyes were closed, his face looked more animated than before. A smile crossed his lips. The strange man had been right. The mud seemed to be helping Tom. As if anticipating Leroy's question, he spoke up. "The purple microorganisms in the sludge need a host. They need nutrients from the mud. If they don't get enough, they start feeding on your body." Everyone looked so content, as if they were just relaxing in a hot tub. Tom opened his eyes and called to Leroy, "I feel great. Come on and join us. We were looking for an adventure after all." The woman spoke up again. "It's a symbiotic relationship. You'll never need to eat real food again as long as you soak in the mud for a few hours every day. The mud feels delicious. They digest the mud for us, extracting the nutrients we both need to survive." Leroy's mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. Could he leave Tom behind? He certainly felt like doing so. "Don't look so scared," Tom said. "Come on in." "All right, I'll join you. Sounds fantastic. Let me just go get the towels." Leroy turned away from the muddy hole, terror rising in the pit of his stomach. He began walking away as casually as possible, but didn't get far before something hit him on the back of the head. "Good idea, Leroy," said Tom. "Sorry about that. I'm just so excited that you decided to stay, that I couldn't leave it up to chance." Stunned, Leroy realized that Tom had thrown a big ball of purple sludge at him. Leroy pulled his shirt up around his neck, making sure that none of it dripped down onto his neck or back. He sprinted to the truck, found his pair of gloves and some scissors, and carefully cut off as much hair from the back of his head that he could. As far as he could tell, none of the sludge had actually touched his skin. He climbed into the driver's seat and accelerated away as quickly as possible. He parked back alongside the freeway, desperately hoping he had not been exposed to the odd microorganisms. 2 hours slowly ticked by, and he continued to feel fine. He knew he should just drive away, but couldn't bring himself to leave Tom behind. Maybe there was still a way to rescue him. He thought about it hard for nearly half an hour before sleep overtook him. He awoke with a jolt and checked his watch. 11 p.m., and he still felt great. Relieved, he started up the truck and drove back to the modular home. He hid the truck carefully before coming into view of the house. He donned long pants, a jacket, and a hat to keep his skin completely covered. There were no lights on inside the house. He crept up to it carefully to make sure, but saw no signs of life. He snuck around the house towards the yard and the muddy hole. Still nothing. He stood behind a tree, as hidden as he could get. Keeping as quiet as possible, he eventually heard a couple shouts from deeper within the woods. Walking slowly in order to stay silent, he began to hear an odd chant. Whatever language they spoke was unrecognizable. He managed to get close enough to see what was happening, at least what was visible in the flickering flames of a large bonfire. Everyone that Leroy had seen in the muddy hole were gathered around it, dancing and waving their arms in bizarre movements, their skin glowing violet in the light of the fire. Leroy squinted to get a better view. He saw Tom standing near the flames, his skin the deepest purple of them all. He was methodically beating on a small drum. Their odd chant soon turned into an eerie song, their voices gaining in intensity. They had switched back to English. They repeated the song 3 times. They were calling out to something, or someone, something up there, in the infinite skies. One verse seemed to be reassuring it that Earth was safe, that the journey was worth it, that the rock and dirt were highly nutritious, that the planet was full of life forms that would welcome them. Tom looked up into the sky. He didn't know if it was an illusion, if he was going crazy, or if he actually saw it. But he swore that he saw a pattern of purple lights flittering in and out of view, as if responding to the mysterious song. The following day, he knew for sure that his eyes weren't lying. The largest meteor shower he had ever seen. According to the astrophysicists, the largest in recorded history, and the only one that had purple streaks. All of the purple meteorites had made it to the ground too, supposedly unscathed by the flames. Of course, it was all over the news. The news anchor just seemed to laugh, though, and reassured everyone that nothing was wrong. Leroy paused the television and rewound it a bit. Yep, just like he thought. The news anchor was already looking a bit pale, an odd purplish shade of pale. Perhaps daily mud baths wouldn't be so bad, Leroy thought to himself. Plus, if he got all of his nutrients from the mud, he would save a ton of money by not needing to buy food. He had to think of the positives, even as he resigned himself to the inevitable future of humankind.